Hey everyone, my name is Jess Campbell and I'm the Education Coordinator with the Southern Alleghenies Museum of Art. I have been with the museum for approximately 15 years. I manage 3 educational outreach programs for them, and we serve 6 counties in the state of Pennsylvania. But what is so unique about the Southern Alleghenies Museum of Art is that we are an art museum, and you can see artwork behind me, but we have 5 locations. We have our main museum, which is where I work out of, is in Loretto, Pennsylvania on the campus of St. Francis University. We have an art museum in Altoona on 11th Avenue, right across the street from the post office. We have a museum in Alleghenies, right off of Route 30, if you're familiar with the area. Another museum at the University of Pitt at Johnstown. We are located in the Pascagoula Performing Arts Center. And last but certainly not least, we have our newest museum, which is located in Bedford, Pennsylvania. So that makes us unique in the fact that we are one museum, but we're under one name. We all have our own personalities and do fun things, and we're mostly free to the public. So if you are looking for something to do, stop on by one of our locations and see what we have to offer. We change our exhibits about every 3 to 4 months depending on location, usually family friendly. Make sure you call ahead and check out what we have going on. We do offer art camps at various times of the year at various locations, and I'm here today to talk to you about our arts and education program, which I love. It is essentially us taking our museum to you. So what we do with this is we take certain pieces of our collection into school districts K through 12. But with everything going on in the world, we are going to show you pictures on the computer screen today that are in our permanent collection. We have about 5,000 works of art in our permanent collection. Most of them are kept at Sam Loretto. We do have our education collection, though, that is kept at our museum in Altoona. We have about 300 pieces that travel into the schools, and we do lessons with them, with students that are in grades kindergarten through seniors in high school, and believe it or not, I even have some college students, college classes that we work with for this program. So today what we're going to talk about are portraits. So I chose 3 works of art from our collection. So bear with me and I will show you pictures of them and we will talk about them and learn a little bit more about the artists, the artwork, what kind of artwork it is. I like to say medium. I'll go into more detail with that in a little bit. So stick around and we will see you in a few minutes. Right now you can see the education collection storage, and we keep this separate from our permanent collection because it travels into the schools, so there's different care procedures for this collection. This is a piece by Judith Lantos Finkelstein. It is part of our education collection and has been part of our collection since approximately 2003. If you take a look at it, this is what we would call a mixed media piece. What does that mean? It means there are multiple mediums to create this, meaning lots of different things put together to create this work of art. We're going to take a look at the back quickly, and then we'll come back to the front of it again. So if you take a look at the back, we label all of our artworks. It is the collection of the Southern Alleghenies Museum of Art. It means it's ours, we own it, and we have an assemblage on the back. So what that means, it is an assemblage is when you have a bunch of different things assembled together to create, in this case, one work of art. It is a small piece. It's 10 by 11 inches. You can get out your ruler and measure a sheet of paper to get the exact size. It's a nice little piece. Again, it is called Sweetie, and you can see that it was done in the year 1999 and 2000. Do you think it took the artist 2 years to finish it? Sometimes it does. The artist may have started it and set it aside, or it may have taken the artist a while to gather all the pieces up to create it. It says Arts and Education Acquisition Purchase at the bottom. That just means that the museum had funds set aside to purchase artwork for our education collection. The 2001.008 EC, that's an accession number, and that is how we keep track of our objects. So if we lend it out or if someone borrows it, we would write down that number to keep track of it. And we are also incorporating barcodes now on our artwork to scan it, and it kind of links up with our computer. That is the job of our registrar. She is like the librarian of our artwork. She takes care of all of the artwork. So probably 5,800 works of art, if I had to guess, maybe 5,500. But she takes care of all that. And this is one way we can keep track of everything by labeling it on the back. That way you don't have to see it. But if it was on display at the museum, we would also have a similar tag on the wall beside it, so you knew artist, title, date, and what it's made of. So we're going to flip back to the front now. Again, this artwork is titled Sweetie by Judith Lantos Finkelstein, and it is what we call an assemblage or a mixed media piece. Sometimes you'll hear the word found objects too. So this is what the artist has to say about her artwork. Through my artwork, I promote storytelling. I think that visually portraying stories touches people's experiences and gets them thinking more about what storytelling is and also about their own personal stories. The idea of storytelling through visual art is both childlike and very sophisticated. She goes on to say, I use found objects to capture and express my perceptions. With these materials, I provide new meaning to words and in a personally meaningful way, reuse objects that have become unwanted or obsolete. Often, when I combine materials, they come alive again. As well, discarded materials often inspire me and serve to jumpstart the whole process of visual storytelling. Well, that's a pretty powerful statement. What do you think this piece is telling you? Does it tell a story? Think about that for a few minutes. The artist is originally from the Pittsburgh area and was a teaching artist for the Pennsylvania Council on the Arts and the Southern Alleghenies Museum of Art. What does that mean? That means she went out into the schools, K through 12, and she would share her expertise, her knowledge, with other students. This is a really fun piece and one of my favorites. I like it because it has multiple parts put together to create one object. But when I look at this, the story I see is a lady, older lady with glasses, with her lipstick on and a flower in her hair, ready to go out and have a good time. What do you guys think? I want to hear your story. This piece is a self-portrait by Hal Frater. Do you know what a self-portrait is? It's a picture of yourself. The common day self-portrait would be what we call a selfie. But here is a wonderful portrait, again by Hal Frater. And it was said that he was born with a brush in one hand and a tube of paint in the other. A very talented artist, and we do have multiple pieces of his in our collection. We will discuss him a little bit more. I'm going to flip to the back and we're going to talk about the title and details of this piece. If you take a look at the back of this piece, we have always listed the artist first. So you can see Hal Frater, and then in parentheses, American, and then 1909 to 2008. So that was his birth year and death year. And underneath we have self-portrait with palette, no date. That means he could not provide us with a time that he painted it. It is oil on linen, and it's 18 by 14. Again, if you want to measure out like a sheet of paper to see the size, it's a fairly decent size, not too small, but oil on linen. So what's that mean? It was oil paint, so oil-based, and that would take like a mineral spirits or paint thinner to clean up, and on linen is almost a canvas-like material that he would have painted on. And oil paints were and still are very popular to use. I still use them. It's a nice medium to experiment with. And underneath that you see Gift of the Artist. That means that Hal Frater donated this piece to the museum. Chances are he knew it was going to be used as an education tool and was more than happy to share it with the museum. If we take a look at this self-portrait of Hal Frater, you can see that the background is a tan color, but you can see something to the right of him. What do you think that is? Any guesses? It's a palette. And what a palette is, if you don't know, it is a surface to which you put paint on, and then you could dip your brush in and paint on your canvas. A lot of artists use palettes to blend colors, to put certain colors on when they're working. So what do you think that means if he has a palette behind him or beside him? That means he's an artist. From his earliest years, he says he was always absorbing the world around him. And everything always makes a comment. He's interested in the condition of man, the meaning of things, and he says even landscapes take on their own life. He was a self-taught artist, and that means no formal schooling. He just practiced and did things on his own. He was an illustrator and belonged to the Society of Illustrators in New York City. And he would join fellow artists in informal sessions and paint from a model. Again, he had no school training, but he made his own learning experiences. Typically, paintings are not under glass or plexiglass. Why? Because the paint needs to breathe. But in this case, this piece is under plexi because it travels around to different schools. So we have to be mindful and take care of that canvas because it really could tear easily. So we have the plexi on it to protect it. But this is a very simple portrait. The artist just has a blue and green shirt on. You can kind of see the shadows around his face. He painted himself, I think, in a realistic manner. He has the shadows under his eyes, the dark eyebrows. Do you think the artist really looks like this? Do you think he exaggerated how he looked? Take a look at his hair, his eyes, his nose, his mouth, what he's wearing, and the fact that he has a palette beside him. What story does this piece tell you? This piece was done by artist Mark Ed, originally from Johnstown, Pennsylvania. He studied at the Philadelphia College of Art and currently resides in Johnstown. What kind of medium do you think the artist used to create this? Do you think it was paint? Crayons? Maybe watercolor paint? Oils? Pastels? Do you know what pastels are? Take a look and wander for a minute. This is an interesting piece. Do you think it's realistic? Do you think it's portraying someone that the artist knows? What are your thoughts on this piece? What story does this piece tell? Here we have the label on the back of the artwork, and you can see Mark Ed. He was American, born in 1957. So today that would make him about 61, 62 years old. The title of this piece is called Amy, and it was done in 1979. So it's mixed media on paper. Do you remember that term from the first piece, Sweetie, by Judith Lantos Finkelstein? Mixed media means that the artist used different materials. So in this case, if we were able to see this piece in person, I could show you that it was done with watercolor and pastels. So watercolor paints, I'm sure some of you have used those before, and pastels, kind of like colored chalk. So you can see it's about 23 by 30 inches. And again, we have gift of the artist. So that means he was kind enough to donate the piece to us to use for education purposes. So let's take a look at Amy. What can you tell about Amy? Where do you think she is? What do you think she's doing? Can you tell what she likes, what she doesn't like? With Hal Frater, we were able to tell that he was an artist because he gave us a hint with the artist palette in his self-portrait. Do you think this is a self-portrait? I'm going to say no, but it is a portrait. It is a portrait of someone named Amy by Mark Ed. Does she look happy, sad? What story does this tell? Do you think this is a realistic portrait or more made up? Like maybe the artist was thinking of something in his mind and this is how he translated it onto paper. Mark Ed spent time at the governor's school in Pennsylvania, and he said that this relationship was an important part of his creativity, and music and theater and sculpture all influence his paintings. He also designs clothing and creates hairstyles which often match the fanciful forms that he uses in his two-dimensional work. What's two-dimensional work? This is a two-dimensional piece, as was the painting by Hal Frater, because they were on a flat surface. Sweetie could be considered two-dimensional because it's on a flat surface and you can't see it from all sides. You can only see the front of it. But take a look at Amy and ask yourself, what story does she tell?